Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my ChinWag for the 22nd of July, 2022. I apologise that this is a late edition. For the last 24 hours, I seem to have been hit by a mysterious bout of heat stroke. I do like to get out into the sunshine, and I think over the last few days, I know we've had that hottest day of the year, and I'm somebody who's probably a bit silly and rarely go out with a hat. And I think the weather got the better of me. I do have a lot of respect for sunshine, but I think the weather got the better of me, and as a result, I've been laid up in bed. So I apologise for not being around earlier in the day. Thank you for all the lovely messages. We're going to concentrate on the messages today and try and catch up with some of your comments in the week. I also want to apologise for my very odd get-up today. I'm not sure if I've coordinated this well, perhaps in my fug that I've just grabbed very odd clothes, but I've got a check shirt on, as you can see, a dogtooth waistcoat, and this rather lovely tweed jacket. It's keeping me warm. I've had a bit of hot and cold fever, so I'm just trying to keep myself warm, although I don't want to be over warm and bake. But we have had some rain here in Sussex, which is fantastic, so that I haven't had to venture out and water the garden. So I have actually just been taking it easy as best I can. However, I think I'm on the road to recovery, so that's all good. I am mortal, like the rest of us, and sometimes these things come along. So let's catch up. So the topic I wanted to talk about is, it's very rare. It's very rare for me to get ill. I'm very lucky that way. I rarely get any ailments whatsoever. The only major problem I've ever had in my life has been my eye removal. For those people that don't know, I lost my eye thanks to a small bug called acanthamoeba. By the way, if you can hear the road, I apologise for that. It's because the window is open and it's quite busy out there at the moment. An acanthamoeba keratitis, which is an amoebic bug that got into the cornea of my eye, and over a protracted period of 4 years ate the cornea. In the end, I had to have 3 cornea transplants, and this bug continued to remain latent in my eye, destroyed all of those, and eventually it was deemed the best option was to actually remove the eye. And so I that was in 2010, some time ago now. And I'm pleased to say that nobody wants their eye removed, but I'm pleased to say that my other eye, although somewhat myopic, is still very healthy, which is good news. Anyway, that's really been... Other than that, I think when I was a young lad, I had my tonsils out and my adenoids. I don't know whether they still do that as a routine once you get tonsillitis. But I've never broken a limb, I'm very pleased to announce. And I've never been stung by a wasp. These are things that I hold in my late 50s now. I hold high. And I think to myself, well, I'd like to get through life with these records unbroken. I'd like to get through life without breaking any limbs. I've strained ankles and things like that and grazed myself like any person would do. But I would like to get to the end of the life and be able to say on my tombstone, I've never been stung by a wasp or a bee. I've had them land on me, and I've managed to get shot of them. I've also never had a tick. And I go walking in the fields quite a bit, and in shorts often, and people keep telling me, oh, well, you'll get Lyme's disease and all of this, but it's never happened. And I'm hoping, of course, that it never does, but you never know. Anyway, I'd be interested to know, are you somebody who suffers from all sorts of ailments, or are you like me, somebody who very rarely does, and yet when you do, it can wipe you out? So I felt completely wiped out, but not sorry for myself. The lovely Julia, my beautiful girlfriend, has been over and dabbed like Florence Nightingale my forehead, and has held my hand and given me beautiful cuddles and very lovely kisses. And I think that's what has brought me round. I did say to her, you know, I ought to be ill more frequently. And she said, stop it, you're mucking about. Anyway, so that's the situation. Excuse me as I blow my honker. Anyway, so I would like to know if you are somebody who suffers from illnesses, or if you're just one of those very lucky people that rarely get anything. And if you do, are you able to brush it away? Mostly, I can brush it away, or as I say, it's just like 24 hours, sleep it off. But I feel very guilty when I'm doing nothing. I'm somebody who always is up and doing something. I can't sit still for any length of time. I want to be doing something. And I can do some reading, and I can sit and read for half an hour to an hour. But after that, I again start to feel I ought to do something, even if it's just pottering around the house. Are you somebody who can just sit back and let the world go by? I feel I can't. Anyway, answers on a postcard, or shove them in the comments. That would be very interesting to read. So let's go in the comments and see what people have been talking about over the last few days, or some of the subjects. And this is the great getaway that a lot of people have been answering about, which presumably was yesterday's. I'm a bit forgetful now. I think the brain has been frazzled by the heat in this tiny skull of mine. Terry Banton says, Farmer Richard, you a cocktail of nostalgia. All our yesterday's aspirational pipe dreams mixed with a sense of realism in today's UK society. Dover, today Friday, has been declared a critical incident as everyone left at 10:30 a.m. Terry Banton, no idea what you're talking about, but thank you for writing in semi-coherent English. As it was says, I find I'm really looking forward to these daily chinwags, and they seem to be growing too. I'm for holidaying in England. I haven't seen at all. I haven't seen all of it, even Sussex. Holidays for me are for relaxing. Camping in a forest is perfect, and I enjoy the variety of our weather. I don't have to go far to be happy. I see that you have changed the old Bald Explorer channel to the Bald Explorer Talks. Interesting. Yes. So I love this country, and I made that, I think, very clear in the last one. I don't need to go abroad. I think if I could have 2 lifetimes, I would have 1 lifetime exploring this country, and then the second lifetime looking at the rest of the world. I would want to, as I mentioned before, want to know the history of the place I go to before I could go and really fully appreciate it. Because for me, understanding history, even just a smattering, when you go somewhere and you see an abbey or a monastery or a village, you get a sense of why it's there, not just struck by the sheer beauty of old buildings, which is lovely in itself, of course, and why I think that people just are not interested in going and looking at new builds. I mean, you do wonder in 100 years' time whether people will ever walk around Britain and go, let's visit some of those new builds they built in the early 2000s. They're stunning. And maybe they will. Maybe the housing stock will be so boring and so bland and so uninviting that people will be looking back with nostalgia at the new builds, these estates that remind me of either mental hospitals or prisons, because they're all cookie cutter and very basic, with no flourishes, no beautiful designs, no aesthetics to them. They're just instant computer generated designs, as if they've come out of some very poorly imagined computer game. That's the sad thing. And maybe the architects who come up with these ideas are just that. They've been playing these Half-Life games and other games. I couldn't tell you the names of games these days. because I don't play them. Yes, I changed the channel, the old channel. Yes, that's because I was going to do some talks on there, but I don't know what I'm doing with that, so don't worry too much about that. Nigel Sadler says, a series of weekends away this year for our holidays. I'm currently on the Isle of Wight as I type this. As you know, my daughter does woofing, and thank you for giving me the translation of that, worldwide opportunities on organic farms, and loves it. Shock, horror, doom. That would make a great YouTube channel title. Yeah, maybe I should call this Shock, Horror, Doom. Although I don't really think that I'm doing that much shock and horror, just reflecting and commenting from a non-expert point of view on what I see in the world. Mr. Basilby says, man-made climate change, that fella is spot on. Not sure which fella you're referring to and whether you agree with man-made climate change or not. Malice in Punderland. There's a lovely name, isn't it? Absolutely love these chinwags. Thank you very much. I keep forgetting to catch up with your Naked Englishman as I watch these now. Oh, well, don't worry. They're pretty uncoherent first thing in the morning, load of old nonsense, of which, for those of you who don't know, I do a podcast called Naked Englishman. It's the Naked Englishman podcast. I don't actually do it naked. It's just that there's no bells and whistles. There's no music and sweepers and that sort of thing, as some podcasts have. It's just me, very raw, recording into a recorder. Not my phone, but a little Zoom recorder. Can you hear that? I don't know if you can hear that, but where I live, there's a woodyard opposite me, and there's a truck that day after day moves from one side of the woodyard to the other with this booming thing. I am actually thinking of moving, but I want to find a dilapidated house in the country with a bit of land so that I can do it up and do a bit of farming of some description. But I think everybody wants to do it. It's a dream that's been around since, the early 70s that people have wanted to escape. And I imagine that all these properties now have been snapped up. I was looking online at houses, dilapidated houses to buy, and even dilapidated ones were expensive. And the worst part is you see one, you think, well, okay, I could probably afford that. And then you look and you notice it's up for auction. So whatever the guide price is, presumably it's going to be 10, 20, 30,000 pounds more than what it is on there. And you just think, what's the point? I don't want to bid and have it higher. You know, you look at something and it says it's X many thousand. I think somebody pointed out you could buy a farm in France for 400,000. I haven't got 400,000. You know, I don't know what people think. There is a website, apparently, a social celebrity website, that somebody thought that I was worth £1.5 million. So the lovely Julia went on that site and had a look. And it was supposedly being able to tell you a lot of information about me. Well, most of this came from Wikipedia that somebody else had set up about me. But not all the information there was accurate. For example, it didn't know that I had children. Well, my children are in their late 20s and early 30s. So for 30 years, I've had children. So these sites have had 30 years to find out whether or not I've had children. And for some reason, they seem to think that I'm worth 1.5 to 3 million pounds. I wish. It is interesting, isn't it? So anyway, absolutely love that. Thank you very much. I've been to Malta, says Malice in Punderland, pre-pandemic, and have no real interest in going anywhere until things settle down. You can't beat a staycation. I'm always interested to hear your thoughts, and the topics are always interesting. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you very much for that endorsement. I know some people don't like what I do, and that's perfectly fine. You know, I'm never going to please all the people all of the time. I don't set out to please all the people all of the time. These chinwags, as I said yesterday, will... Here it comes back. Listen. I really have got to move away from this. I don't know if you've noticed, I was thinking about this for a different theme. Everything is much more noisy these days. Have you noticed that? Do you think that everything has become louder? I mean, I know people are saying get electric cars, they're going to be quieter. But I don't know, everything, maybe as I've got older in life, or maybe it is just that the decibel volume seems to have increased, that our daily lives seem to be far, far louder with aeroplanes, traffic, all this kind of stuff. Noise seems to be a huge pollutant, more so, in my opinion, than anything else at the moment. And I read all these books about farming, beautiful farming practices of the old days when you just had the rattle of the horses, what do you call it? The chains and the buckles and the all that kind of stuff. The harness connecting a plough to a horse, and you would hear the birds and you would hear the bees and nature. Now you can't hear. Here it comes again. I'm trying to see. Back and forth, day after day. Who would want to buy my house with this noise going on all day long? Drives me to distraction. Can't remember what I was saying. Let's do a couple more and then I'll let you go. Shirley Lynch says, not going abroad, staying here. Love your chinwags. Can't understand those that complain about them. You're giving us a thought for the day. It's great. Thank you. That's very kind. Ingram Cars. That's what I thought too. Fires, is talking about the fires in London, do not spontaneously combust at 40 degrees. It's caused by ignition. Yes. And it's interesting. I was watching History Debunked with Simon Webb, who made a very good point, I thought. And that was on the hottest day that we're told proves global warming, because all these fires suddenly were alight in London. He says, actually, that's not really how it happened. That these fires have been going on for a few days. It's just they're very local incidences, and so the national media weren't interested. But because you have the stories such as the hottest day on record, apparently, and then these fires started, they put them together and made 2 and 2 equal 5, giving the impression that thanks to it being 41 degrees or whatever it was, that actually you get to that point and the fires all started in London. But actually they were happening, and I imagine fires are going on all the time. Otherwise, what's the point of a fire service? But if you collate that information and you just hang it all on the one story that it's the hottest day, and you go, look at that. These fires, they've all just combusted at 41 degrees. That's bizarre, isn't it? Because there are places in the rest of the world that are hotter than that, and they're not catching fire, they're not melting, they're not turned to charcoal, and people are wanting to go there. It is very odd how we are being suckered into all this rubbish that's being reported to us. Go abroad, you want those sort of temperatures. That's what people want to do, lying by the pool. They're not thinking, oh, it's going to be about 40 degrees. I'm going to burn and melt and all that. They all go out there, they lie on the beach, and then, like me, they get a bit of heat stroke and then wish they hadn't done it. It's coming back now, bloody thing. Anyway, thank you very much. Do let me know if... Listen to that noise. Do let me know if you suffer badly with illnesses, and what's your remedy? Can you just sit it out? Or have you got a secret tincture? Is there a little medicine cabinet where you have something that you recommend for all these things that just knocks it on the head? Do you take apple cider vinegar, whatever it's called? Do you have a special little potion? Be interested to know. Thank you for listening to my thing. As you can hear, I'm clearly getting better now, so hopefully tomorrow we'll be back to normal. Till then, bye-bye.